Here we go. Hi, Happy New Year.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year.
We are so delighted, finally. We tried to get him before Christmas, but now we have him back in full health. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jonas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All the way from
Very
Sweden.
welcome.
Finally.
who is an absolute VC legend and somebody who John and I have been watching for, well, we were just chatting before, sort of since the birth of Jonas's daughter, who's 7. So it's been a long time.
Yeah,
We've been connected. We were just saying, I mean, in the UK, we've gone into this kind of really serious lockdown, and we've got loads of fatalities and infections, and yet here we are connecting across the world as part of the VC and meeting people we've never met before.
Yeah.
And it just feels so important to be doing this at the moment.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm so honored to be a part of the sessions. As I said before we started recording, I've been watching you guys since day one, and it's like Christmas every time your videos pops up. So much knowledge and great records shared. So yeah, happy to be part of this.
Well, I have to say, I've always loved your passion and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You're always sharing and showing records that I've never heard of. So, but okay. You always make me want to find out about them, because it's just lovely to have this platform where we can all share the things that we're into.
Yeah. I agree totally. It's when I started out in the VC, I always said that I consider myself a student, really, and listening to other people, and that hasn't changed really. I'm still such a student, just absorbing as much information about people's opinions and facts about records, and I love it. It's
never
awesome.
stops though. You're always a student, I think. Never stops. You just carry on.
Yeah. We keep learning. Well, anyway, we're each gonna share 7 records. None of us know what the other person's brought, and we're gonna talk about a book and a film at the end. So I'm going to kick off with a record that I've been waiting for a long time. It's a brand new record, very unexciting cover, but I have been mentioning this band really since the year before last. This is the band called SAULT, and they've sort of come from nowhere, and no one really knows who they are. And they've just got a really original sound. I was listening to them again today, and I was hearing kind of bits of Bollywood, bits of John Barry, bits of sort of post-punk, bits of 80s soul, and also kind of everything with the kitchen sink kind of vibe, just weird things happen. But the last 2 double albums they've released, which came out in 2020, have been very much the soundtrack to the last year. They seem to be like a combination of UK and American artists working together. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing, look at that. There's nothing, there's no insert. There's nothing about who's playing. And they've done this very cleverly.
It's almost like Spinal Tap's Smell the Glove. They wanted the entire thing to just be black, I think.
Yeah. So the last album was called Black Is, and this one is called Rise. And this one, it's got a bit more of an optimistic flavor to it, but the guy, I do know the producer is this guy called Inflow, and they've got such a sound that you can hear within the first few seconds that it's their sound, which these days is amazing, given people are so into copying each other. So to actually create something so original. Anyway, SAULT, really hard to get hold of, and these are going for £100 on Discogs. And only came out a couple of months ago.
Awesome.
Over to you, Jonas.
Yeah. Okay. My first pick that I've been playing this. I thought of like which records and artists have I absorbed a lot this kind of Christmas, really, and one of them is definitely John Zorn. So I start off with Naked City from 1990. I think this is a brilliant record, and actually this is I think I can say that this is my introduction to more, I don't want to say free jazz or obscure music and or avant-garde music, but more demanding music, maybe. When my then girlfriend was studying in Stockholm, I was writing my thesis here in my town south of Sweden. And I went to Stockholm a lot, and I had a lot of free time. So I went to the small shops and bought a lot of CDs and stuff like that. And then I collected Mike Patton. So I think that it was via Mike Patton that I noticed John Zorn. And I mean, the cover just alone draws you in, doesn't it? So and the music is brilliant. I mean, Bill Frisell and Fred Frith is really doing it on this one, I think. So
there's a great bit in the I think it's in the Bill Frisell documentary where you see him watching a bit of Naked City, and he's going, how do we even do that? I mean, I saw them a couple of times live, and it's ridiculous. I mean, they're talking about jump cuts. They were just going through like stuff in milliseconds all the time. It was ridiculous.
I actually, when I pulled it out from my shelf, I thought like you guys have seen John Zorn. I thought that. Yeah. So cool.
Definitely. I also noticed you showed the Cobra record on your.
Yes, exactly. And I think that when I got that record, that kind of spurred me, and I segued into revisiting all of my John Zorn records. I don't have much, but this and Torture Garden and the Ornette Coleman. I think those three records.
Yeah, yes, good stuff. Okay, well, I've been listening to this today, and of course I realised after I started listening to it that it's on a Swedish label.
Yeah, perfect.
Johnny Downey with Mongezi Feza and OK Temiz, who's a Turkish drummer, and he basically he was an interesting drummer. He had a standard drum kit, but he replaced all of the tom-toms with Turkish metal drums, so it has a really interesting sound. Obviously, the cover I think is meant to be a little bit of a nod to Ornette Coleman, but it's a great record. This, I mean, it's there aren't that many really good examples of Mongezi Feza recorded properly. Actually, there's a lot of the stuff on Ogun doesn't sound that great, but yeah. So it's a mixture of improvised stuff. There's a whole sequence of traditional South African songs on here as well, and it's just a great record. And I remember Keith Knox, who was the guy who ran Sonnet. He used to come into the shop at the bookshop and record shop I used to work in as well, and buy records. So it's kind of, yeah. And I pulled this out today, and it sounded great, actually.
Awesome. I think I have a reissue of that.
I think there has been one. Yeah. This came out in the UK as well as it came out on Pi in the UK.
Okay.
Nice. Okay, this is another new purchase. This is a reissue. This is Norman Connors and Love from the Sun, and this came out on the Pure Pleasure label, which I'm often raving about. Every pressing that they do is excellent. I think they always use the analog master tapes, and yeah, it's a kind of classic sort of early 70s jazz fusion, I guess slightly kind of spiritual, kind of exploratory stuff, but just the most amazing lineup. You've got Herbie Hancock, well, obviously Norman Connors, Buster Williams, Eddie Henderson, Bill Summers, Gary Bartz, Carlos Garnett, Dee Dee Bridgewater on vocals, but just a really like a kind of hybrid, you know, some of those Bitches Brew albums meeting the Headhunters. And John and I have had this conversation that actually Norman Connors isn't the greatest drummer, but he seemed to be absolutely brilliant at pulling musicians together. And
this is play on quite a lot of his records, evidently.
Right, but I mean, I also picked this up really cheap. I think it was a tenner or something, brand new. But yeah, great, really nice album, and very atmospheric, beautifully recorded, and there's strings and, you know, horns. It's just rich beautiful music. And I love the version of Love from the Sun, which is one of my favorite tunes. Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, my turn. I don't know. I think this is kind of fitting when we're talking about what's happening in the US today, but I actually played this the other day, Eugene McDaniel's Outlaw, and a lot of people are talking about the Headless Heroes of the Apocalypse. I think that's a better record, but this is damn close. I mean, it's a
weird record.
It's a weird record, isn't it?
Weird and wonderful record, I think.
Yeah. It's super weird. And I actually, I don't know. I couldn't find it in my collection, and I filed it on the Jazz. And I don't know if I should file it on Jazz or popular music, but there it was. So I read a little bit about it, and if the story is true, they found this in Nixon's office in the White House. Because of the cover artwork, they had their eye on Eugene McDaniel's at the time. But I don't know more about it than that. I think it's a fantastic record and very easy to get into music-wise. But
not that easy to find on vinyl. I've never seen a vinyl copy.
No, I went into one of the soul and funk record stores in Hamburg when I was there in Germany, and I found a mint copy of it, and I asked the girl behind the counter. She was so cool, awesome owner of the record store. So I asked her if is this an original, and she said yes, it's an original. It's in perfect condition, and I bought it and came home, and it was pirate press. But I got a hold of a original later on. So it's an original.
I've never seen it on vinyl, I don't think.
No, okay, I've never seen it. I've got a CD of it.
Yeah. Well, this kind of relates a bit to the Norman Connors, actually, because there's a bit of a story behind this. This is a weird McCoy Tyner record, which came out after he did the Milestone stuff. It came out in Columbia, and it's got Philip. I was telling Mark just before we started, actually, I had a very strange dream. I dreamt an entire Phyllis Hyman concert. Phyllis Hyman's all over this record. She sings on most of the record. And it's a strange one. I mean, McCoy's hardly on it, really. I mean, you don't even notice he's there half the time. But it's got some great songs on it, an amazing lineup, including Stanley Clarke, Gary Bartz again, Carlos Santana's on it, and Ndugu's on it, Norman Connors is on it as well, so it's got everybody on there. But the songs are really, really good on it. And a while ago, I'm going to cheat side, because a while ago I dissed this record, this Pharoah Sanders record, on one of our videos, and I realised that actually I had the wrong record in the sleeve when not that great, but it's also got some good Phyllis Hyman stuff on it as well. So anyway, this is very easy to find, and the vocal tracks are really good on here as well. But don't expect a kind of McCoy Tyner Milestone kind of sound over this at all. Certainly not like that.
Well, this next one.
Just the lighting. I'm not going away.
Okay, this next one is a bit of a thread, really, from the last 3 videos, because I've been. Do you know the band Family, Jonas?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they are a classic sort of UK psych rock, boogie. Anyway, I've been kind of gradually sort of following the later lineage. So when Family split up, there was the Streetwalkers. Well, initially it was Charlie Whitney and Roger Chapman, and then they became a band called the Streetwalkers. Again, not a very interesting cover. You can see probably some sort of high-heeled legs there. I mean, they're extremely un-PC. I can't imagine anyone calling themselves the Streetwalkers these days. But this was just a really interesting moment in the UK in terms of music. So punk was about to happen, but there was this the kind of rock sound was evolving in kind of quite a funky way, because this is similar time to Physical Graffiti, Led Zeppelin. Thin Lizzy were kind of doing really nice funky music at this time, and these guys also, this is a great album actually, and they also write really good songs, but being punk just wiped this music away, you know, because I was a teenager at the time. I should have been a punk basically, but I was listening to stuff more like this, and because I was very, you know, I was playing the guitar, so I was into making music, and I couldn't understand. I mean, I appreciated the spirit of punk, but so many older musicians suddenly pretended that they couldn't play anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was really weird. It was there was a kind of fakeness going on. It was a strange time, especially being a teenager at that time. It's like, you know, the music press almost changed overnight, and it was almost like the older writers kind of thought, we've got to jump on this bandwagon, otherwise we're not going to be relevant anymore.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, Red Card.
The irony is that people like Chris Spedding, who was very much part of that scene, plays on the first Sex Pistols record, of course.
Yeah.
Across the whole thing. And it's kind of, there was all this, people say, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I used to love winding up punks by playing disco at parties.
Okay.
It was like a cross to a vampire. They always...
It was a strange time, but you know, it was a beautiful time in the 70s, because actually you could like all kinds of music, you know. I mean, I'd be listening to Chic, I'd be listening to Earth, Wind and Fire, I'd be listening to, you know, Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush.
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
The interesting thing about punk was a lot of the people like the Slits and the Raincoats and those people, they used to come down to the Musicians Collective to hear all the improvised music stuff as well. So there was a good side of it as well, actually, particularly the post-punk kind of time, I think.
Yeah,
But,
and I bet that I mean, music-wise, with the punk, it had to evolve from that sort of output.
yeah.
So I guess that for music history, it has to be a very good thing that it happened.
Yeah. I mean, the post-punk stuff I think is great, and there's you know, some punk, you know, classics. Obviously, Never Mind the Bollocks is an amazing rock record. But it was just weird. It kind of just, it cleared the scene in a way. It just created a real sort of end point and a start point of something different. Yeah.
Cool. It's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think there's a connection here with your record, John. I played this a lot. I don't know if you know this, but it's Swedish jazz record with Bernt Rosengren called Notes from the Underground. It's one of the really most highly rated Swedish jazz records, I think, from 1974. And this is a lot of the who's who of the Swedish jazz scene from that time period, along with Turkish musicians. So you have Salih Bashal, who's a violin player from Turkey. He did one solo record on, I think, Sonnet, which is awesome, really, really good. Coltrane 68, Chris knows about that record. And you also have Mafi Falai and OK Tamis also. And there's a little bit of a story behind this. As I said, it's a very well-known record. Bernt Rosengren, he's getting old now, and he still play fairly good. Goes around. And in 2016, I went to a concert with him here in my town, and he played good. And I had this record with me, and I went in front of the stage and asked him if he could sign it after the concert. And he was really grumpy. So I asked him about the recording session and how it was to record with these sort of Turkish musicians. And he just like snapped at me and said, like, I can't remember that shit. Like, and he signed it. So I have his signature there. And I thought, like, yeah, but maybe he can't remember and stuff like that. 2 months afterwards, there came out 1 hour long documentary on a Swedish public radio about this record, with a very long interview with Bernt Rosengren. So, I mean, he remembered, but it's just a matter of who's asking, really. So I still have the concert slip there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a good concert, and the record is fantastic. I think Sweden is I don't know if it's unique for the rest of the world, but Sweden in the 70s were really like open-minded about taking taxpayers' money and get people all over the world to come to us and record. I mean, that's why I guess part of it, that's why Don Cherry went to Sweden and spent so much time here, because he could take government funds to record records, like and record with some of the best players in Sweden and in Europe at the time.
Wow.
So so I think that Swedish, especially 70s, had a great sort of world jazz fusion thing going on, and we have lots of records recorded that from that time period that is awesome, really, and this is one of them in my opinion. So Notes from the Underground, 1974, Bernt Rosengren.
Yeah, he played on, was it a Thomas Stanko record he played on a few years ago? So he's still playing, isn't he? He sounded pretty good.
Yeah, yes, Bernt Rosengren is still playing. I don't know how much he's recording, but he's definitely still playing, and he's been playing like, I don't know when he started, but I guess in the 50s, something like that. So one of the really true jazz heroes in Sweden.
Okay, next up, Motoric on his YouTube channel was talking about a John Coltrane, people who played John Coltrane but weren't John Coltrane.
Yeah, awesome.
And I thought there's two John Coltrane tracks on this. There's Central Park West and India, both on this Jack to Jonnet record. It's on ECM. Great band with Jack and Peter Warren and Arthur Blythe and David Murray, just a quartet. And the nice thing about this is that nobody tries to sound like John Coltrane. So they're playing two John Coltrane tunes, but they don't sound like Coltrane at all. And this is a great record, actually. I mean, it's a really, Jack to Jonnet was kind of really on fire during this time, I think, I guess this was the mid-90s, mid-80s or whatever. Late 70s, actually, this was. And it's a kind of good example of how you pay homage to Coltrane without sounding like him, I think, this record. And yeah, ECM, obviously.
Okay, this is a soul record. And this is on another really good reissue label called Be With Records, who I think are based in the UK. This is Leon Ware, and it's called, the album is called Rocking You Eternally, a very classic 80s cover this. I just absolutely love, really cheesy actually. I love the track Rocking You Eternally. It's just, there's a kind of genre which is called two-step. It's the sort of music that if you were at a party and the party had been going almost all night, and it's kind of coming up to dawn and no one really wants to go home, and the tempo really sort of slows, but people are still kind of grooving, but kind of, this is the kind of tune you drop at that time. Okay. And yeah, some beautiful playing. Leon Ware, very sort of under-recognized. He did a lot of work with Marvin Gaye, pretty much wrote the whole of the I Want You album. And yeah, great songwriter, but also a great performer. And this actually is a really nice, the title track is a collaboration with Marcus Valle, the Brazilian. So
they also reissued the one after that, didn't they, as well?
Oh, have they?
I've got, yeah. Which again is a great record, yeah.
Now during Christmas time, I've watched a lot of movies, and I revisited Inside Llewyn Davis, the Coen Brothers film, and that made me listen to some of the stuff in my collection. And I stopped by this one, Jackson Frank's only record, I guess. This is the Four Men on Beards. I wish I had a original press of this, but it's just such an fantastic record. 1965, man oh man. And there's not a bad song on here, but Milk and Honey and My Name is Carnival and Kimby, just mind-blowing songs. I don't know if you have heard it. I guess you
yeah. Great record. Yeah.
Is it just him and guitar?
Shit, I should know that, but I don't know. Yeah, I think it's very, very acoustic. I can't remember really if there's any more instruments. That Blues Runs the Game, it has to be just acoustic instruments. Yeah, it was produced by Paul Simon, I think, from Simon & Garfunkel. But the thing is with Jackson C. Frank, in my opinion, is that his best song he wrote in the 90s, like a outtake. So there's 3 compilation records that you can buy of outtakes from his career, and I mean, there's a sad story about the guy. He died without a penny to his name, and I don't know if it was alcohol or drugs involved, but I think he died in the 90s or early 2000s. But he managed to record some demos, and one of them was Marlene, and that song is just mind blowing. Check it out if you haven't heard it. It's insanely good. It's on Spotify. And it's about because when he was young, he was in an accident. So the school started to there was a fire, and a lot of his schoolmates died, and he was scarred for the rest of his life due to that happening. So his girlfriend Marlene died, and he wrote a song about it and recorded it in the 90s. Fantastic song.
Wow.
Fantastic record.
Great stuff. So this actually goes quite well, actually, with what you've just shown.
Oh.
This is something I have shown before, actually, on the VC, but long time ago. This is The Hired Hand, soundtrack to a film called The Hired Hand.
Okay.
And it's by Bruce Langhorne, who was Mr. Tambourine Man. He was Mr. Tambourine Man. He was the one that Dylan wrote the song about.
Okay.
And he was one of the very few, there were a kind of handful of African-American musicians on the kind of folk scene. There was obviously Richie Havens and Odetta and so forth. And he was a multi-instrumentalist, played loads and loads, plays on loads of records, plays on Pat Garrett and Knocking on Heaven's Door and all kinds of stuff. And this was a soundtrack. The Hired Hand was a very strange film by Peter Fonda, which is almost like a weird psychedelic Western, very, very odd, kind of just really kind of, I think it's on YouTube actually, definitely worth watching. And this is a soundtrack to it, which is kind of, you imagine something like Dead Man, the Neil Young soundtrack, and a bit like that, a bit like Ry Cooder's soundtrack for Paris, Texas, but very, very strange music, but very beautiful music as well.
What year is this, John?
This was probably, I think, 1969, I think.
So kind of very much just after Easy Rider.
Just after Easy Rider, yeah. And it was like a kind of, it was almost like a kind of, well, it's much stranger than Easy Rider, and there's hardly any narrative to it at all. It's like weird images and really interesting film. It's a great piece of music. And Psyche in the Valleys has been, we'll be talking about this actually, I've just recommended it to him actually, because he did a great video on soundtracks a couple of weeks ago actually, which is really, so yeah, definitely worth getting. And this was a reissue that came out, I think, back on Scissortail Records a few years ago. Okay. Definitely worth it.
Okay. Well, one of the sort of genres of music that I've been exploring and getting kind of quite excited about in terms of contemporary music is sort of electronic music. And there's an artist called Fote, who is a young guy from Woodstock in New York. And this is his third album, and it's called Waking Hours. And he wrote it during last year, so it's got a mood of isolation, I guess, as any music that was being created at that time had, and just very interesting texturally. He does sort of drop in live instruments every now and again, and he's singing a bit on it. But yeah, just an interesting artist. There's another album I got of his called Onism, which I also really liked. But yeah, just what I'm listening to at the moment.
Good. You're on.
Yeah, well, yeah, sorry. Yeah, dreaming, thinking about records. Yeah, this is also one that I've been playing this Christmas. I think it's brilliant. It's Min Bull by Terje Rypdal, Björnar Andersen, and Espen Ruud. So a Norwegian jazz record from 1970 with a young Terje Rypdal before he joined the ECM family. I think the first ECM record he was on is from 1971.
Yeah, and
he also released his own ECM record from 1971. But yeah, I think so. Anyway, this is. It's a fantastic record. They are not the best musicians. I mean, Terje is doing a great job with the guitar, but he also dabbles with the saxophone on this, which is kind of cool. But he's not the best saxophone player out there. And two songs on here: "Champagne, of course," which is the best one in my opinion, the last track on the A side, but "Strange Beauty" also on the B side. fantastic.
He's incredibly influential. I mean, I thought it was interesting, that tribute album that came out a couple of years ago, and all the people like Frizzell and Abercrombie and all of them saying he was like, I mean, he originated a whole load of that really interesting effects driven kind of guitar playing.
Yeah.
His new album's good, actually. The new ECM one.
Okay, I haven't heard.
Sounds great, actually. Sounds really good. He's a really interesting musician, I think, actually, and massive, hugely underrated, I think.
Yes, yes. As a guitarist, I think so too. He feels like an artist that wants to evolve constantly. So, and I admire that. They don't stand at the same spot. Really.
Yeah. This is something I think I've also shown at some point on the VC as well. This is Gillian Welch and her album, The Harrow and the Harvest, and this is just sonically, this record is just unbelievable. It was kind of they've always made their records analog, and they've never actually put them on vinyl before. So they've been coming out of CDs, but this came out a few years ago on and they bought their own lathe to get the best sound they could on it as well. So it's such a
wow.
And 6-Inch Pianist, who was one of our guests on the VC, was raving about this, saying it's probably the best sounding record he's got. I think actually it really is just extraordinary. It's nothing flashy, 2 guitars, vocals, but the sound on it is absolutely incredible, actually. And it's just and it was very cheap. It came out, it was only like kind of $20 for a long time, but unfortunately now it's kind of creeping, the prices of it creeping up. But it's I noticed there's one on eBay starting being auctioned today for £25, so worth grabbing. But it's a great, really good music, fantastic.
Has that got a textured cover?
Very textured cover, yeah. Very incredibly thick, and it's kind of.
No, I remember you bringing it up.
A beautiful cover artwork on it.
Yeah, and the CD just had black and white artwork, and the things got. Yeah, definitely recommended.
We haven't done it. This is our first video this year, isn't it, John? Yeah, I'm just checking because I got given this for Christmas. I just want to make sure I haven't already shown it before. This is the Herbie Hancock Trio. So this was the final bit of the 4-part record store day that happened last year, and this is Herbie Hancock, Tony Williams, and Ron Carter playing together. This was originally a Japanese only release, and it was very much around the time of the VSOP band, which actually had additional horns, but I think this is the only recorded evidence of this particular trio playing together at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. John's going to correct me on that.
No, there's one a few years later, actually.
Okay.
also on the Japanese label as well. Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, I've been going through a bit of a Tony Williams phase, just sort of just following his path and his career and his sound. It's just kind of, he's explosive, and the kind of combination of these three with so much space. I mean, sometimes trios are just fantastic for really allowing musicians to stretch out, and it's just really exciting to listen to. The only thing I would say about this particular pressing, and I've noticed now in Discogs that a number of other people have noticed it, is the side 2. It's not, there's a slight kind of, not a warp, but it doesn't.
It's not centered.
It's not centered properly. Yeah. Side 1 sounds absolutely fantastic, but side 2, because it was a present from my wife, I'm not sure I can really change it at the moment. I haven't mentioned it.
You can't change your record, and you can't change your wife.
No.
And who would want to? But I think I love that sound, because he started using a bigger kit then. So he already started playing fusion stuff. So he was playing, there's a few, the Great Jazz Trio as well, which is Hank Jones, Ron Carter, and Tony Williams. And he's got such a heavy sound as well, actually. He's got a big sound on those things. So he's playing a kind of jazz stuff, but he was playing with a huge drum kit.
Yeah.
Freddie Hubbard said around that time that playing with VSOP with Tony Williams behind him was like somebody punching him in the back of the head all the time I was
playing. Okay. this is brand spanking new. I've only listened to it once since I got it, but so it's I think the most recent record I've purchased. This is Frup, Future Legends, and this is a prog record from 1973. I think the original one was released. They released 4 records. Everyone is fantastic in my opinion, and I mean, you could argue that they sound a little bit like Genesis, maybe, but I think it's more folky and do I dare say a little bit more interesting. So I managed to I got Frup's second record as a VCLT by Ben Costello many moons ago. That was a great gift, man, and I played it to death. But I haven't been able to get any more Frup records. They are very rare to see here in Sweden, at least. And now I managed to get all 4 of them just in a month's time. This is the Japanese first press from 74. Sounds great. Really happy to get that. Mm. So Frup.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing them at the Roundhouse when I was probably about 15.
Ah, cool.
And, yeah, they just... Is there just 3 of them, or was there 4 of them?
No, I think they were 4. Can't imagine they were less than.
But yeah, they had this kind of, and there was a strong kind of Irish flavor.
It's all in Japanese, so I can.
Okay, yeah.
I started to see if I could, but no.
They just sounded very. I mean, I saw so many bands at that time, but they definitely stood out. Yeah.
They were often the support bands, weren't they? I seem to remember. I think I might have seen them supporting Family, actually.
Yes, I think that they supported Family. Now, when I've done like reading about them, I thought I
sure that I think they did. I think I might have. Yeah, I think they were maybe once, maybe even more than that as well. But we need Ben back anyway, don't we? Actually,
we need Ben back. Jonas, am I right in thinking you've got the Galactic Ramble book?
Yes. We are going to talk about a book later on.
Okay.
So let's put a pin in that, so to speak.
Okay, next up, I think in the last video I showed a Wes Montgomery record on Verve, and this is another one. This is Tequila, which has an amazing track, Bumping on Sunset, on it. Just love the sound of these records, actually. This is an original on Verve, which I got a couple of years ago, really incredibly good price, actually. And it's a wonderful kind of deep groove pressing, perfect pressing on it. Sounds great, actually. And just love that kind of period, really. I mean, I really liked him when he moved on to A&M and CTI, but the Verve records have got this amazing sound. And there's a great video with Bill Frisell talking about this record on, which I just noticed came up on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, just saying it was one of the records that got him into playing guitar. Yeah, so classic sound. Ron Carter, Grady Tate, and Klaus Ogerman doing the arrangements on it as well. Really good stuff.
No, I just want to make sure I didn't show this record last time. Do you remember seeing that, John?
I don't think you did, no.
This is an EP collaboration between Danalog, who is one of the Comet is Coming, the band that Shabaka Hutchins has, this sort of, who I think you would love, actually, Jonas, because it's a kind of psychedelic jazz.
Okay, cool.
Cosmic psychedelic contemporary jazz sound. And this guy called Alabaster de Plume, who actually played at this venue that John and I are now associated with in Faversham, that's the Hot Tin. And Alabaster de Plume is, what's the name of that very hip record label that the one of your records of the year is on, John? The guy in Tortoise.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
International Anthems.
International Anthem, yeah.
So he's one of the rare UK artists signed to International Anthem. Anyway, he plays sax and sort of various horns and a bit of spoken word. And this is just a very experimental EP, recorded down the road in Margate, again, I think last year. And yeah, just interesting mix of electronic and live playing, which is catching my ear. Again, just music that doesn't sound like somebody else, which
Yeah.
is kind of quite rare these days. Yeah. So it's called I Was Not Sleeping.
Mm.
Great cover.
I've got that on order, actually.
Yeah.
I heard a couple of tracks sounded really good.
Yeah.
Okay, my last one. I've watched a lot of documentaries now, also this Christmas time, and I've been sick, as you know. So once a year, I watch the documentary about Miles Davis, the Miles Davis story.
Mm.
So I watched this, and then I watched Chasing Train, that sort of new documentary on John Coltrane, and that made me play this that I got this year, Ascension by Coltrane on Impulse. Fantastic record also. But I mean, I could probably pull any Coltrane record out from my collection and play, and that would be a awesome, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But the lineup here is just insane. You have Freddie Hubbard, Art Davis, Elvin Jones, McCoy Tyner, Marion Brown, Pharoah Sanders, Archie Shepp, John C. Kai, Hugh Johnson, and Jim Garrison. I mean, it's what a lineup. Shit. So yeah, I've been playing that.
Intense music, isn't it?
Intense music, really intense music, but so rewarding if you just, take a minute to really absorb it. It's so rewarding, and I think that with that sort of free jazz, it takes time to get into, but when it clicks, it's out of this world.
I love 1965 is my favorite year for Coltrane. I think it's fantastic. I think it's kind of almost like the band was starting to fall apart, and it's kind of there's an amazing kind of tension and energy in the music as well, I think. Okay, my last one, I had to show this really because Jonas showed one of the volumes of this. And nice. Also Dave in North Carolina also showed a volume of this. This is the Bertzmann Van Ho Benning with Albert Mangelsdorff. This is the box version of the 3 records, actually, which I noticed today is my most valuable record now.
Okay.
So. Cool. And
beautiful.
It's actually not as nice as the 3 individual volumes. It's just a weird cardboard box. That's all it is with the 3 records. And there's a big poster inside with all the artwork inside it as well.
Okay.
But this was, I used to sell these records. When I had the record department at the little shop I had in Brighton, I used to sell FMP and ICP records as well. But this is a great one. And I think you showed the first one. Was it? You showed, yeah.
Yeah, the orange one. I can't remember what the title of it is. Yeah,
and it's great. As you say, it's very German.
Yeah, it's very German.
Very much of its time, but they're great pressings. FMP used to use the same pressing plant as Deutsche Grammophon. So
okay,
yeah, also good at that time. So. But it just reminds me of the whole kind of. I played all these today, and it sounded like just took me right back to 1972 or 73 when he came out. Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm on to books now, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to show one book that I think isn't very good at all. So I'm almost warning people off it. This is by Greg Wilson, and it's called Discotheque Archives. And it's basically, it sounded like it would be really interesting, just covering loads of different record labels, DJs, tracks. And the problem is there's hardly anything that, there's not enough text about anything. So you've got all these amazing stories, and then, it's all just on one page. So that was the disappointing bit about it.
Is it taken from Wikipedia? Did I read somewhere it's all taken from Wikipedia?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I don't know. But anyway, I wouldn't recommend it. That's the one I'm not recommending. This is the one I am recommending. This is nothing to do with music, but this is another of these more kind of philosophical books, really. And it's called Head, Hand, Heart by David Goodhart. And then it says The Struggle for Dignity and Status in the 21st Century. And it's all about how, as a society, we've become obsessed with quite a narrow field of education and people attaining sort of qualifications and degrees. and that's all very kind of head focused. And the what we've lost is the people doing stuff with their hands and also caring with their heart. And I think it feels hugely relevant in terms of, it was just written as COVID sort of kicked off, so it's kind of referenced quite a bit, but it was so, you know, weirdly depressing to sort of notice what were the jobs that were really important that came through over the last 9 or 10 months that couldn't not be done at home. Mostly the ones that always are so poorly paid as well, certainly in the UK. I know it's better in Sweden. But yeah, just a very interesting book to reflect on where we're going with society. And I've said this before, but I do feel we're at a huge moment of potential change. So I think kind of becoming aware and awake to all the sort of possibilities feels very important at this moment.
Yeah, so true.
And the film I was going to mention was just something that it was a friend of mine was actually going to edit this documentary on the artist D'Angelo. It's called Devil's Pie, and it came out last year, I think. And it's a music doc, but it's kind of got this interesting tension about D'Angelo, who very much came up through the church and through a very strong influence of his grandmother and gospel influences, but then kind of moved very much into secular music, and had this real kind of battle where he was being very much perceived as a sex symbol, and he very much has a persona on stage, and then he's very different off stage. And it's kind of this internal battle. But he's also somebody who, you know, very rare artist who is able just to exude music with every pore. And I find him a fascinating artist. He's only released 3 albums. He's been around a long time, but I think he has quite a troubled time.
Okay.
Where can we see that, Mark?
Sorry, I'll send you the link, John, because I've just got a link to it.
Oh, right. So it's not actually available on the platform.
I don't know, but I've just been sent it, so I can send it.
Lovely, fantastic.
Devil's Pie, yeah.
Books.
Here it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Mark, you showed us, I don't know, maybe can it be 6 months ago, something like that?
No, a couple of years ago, I think.
A couple of years ago, yeah, okay. But when this was released, it was in a is it called hardcover?
John's got the original.
Yeah.
John lent me the original.
Okay.
And I took so many notes from it. There it is.
Oh yeah, awesome. This is, Galactic Ramble is, for those who don't know, fullest ever study of the 60s and 70s UK music scene. A lot of rock, prog, and psych, obviously, but some jazz stuff too, like Iron Car and Nucleus and those guys. And it's 1 million words. It's so dense. It's insane. This is the best investment I've done in years, I think. and I think that postage to Sweden is as much as the book, and the book is expensive. So I decided to read this back to back. So what I've done is I lay on my couch with earphones, and every artist I don't recognize and I don't know about, I look up and listen a little bit to. So I've had this since November, and I've come like this far. So I have 10 years of reading, but that's that book. I also got the Tapestry of Delights. Do you know about this?
No.
Tapestry of Delights is written by a guy called, let's see here, Vernon Johnson.
Who used to work for the London Borough Grants Unit.
Yeah, he's done a lot of music records of different genres, and this is the ultimate guide to UK rock and pop of the beat, R&B, psychedelic and progressive eras, 1963 to 76. This is volume 1, A to K, and there's volume 2 over there. Not as expensive as Galactic Rumble, but even more pages. The fun thing with these 2 books is Galactic Rumble is opinions about music, really. So you have like experts talking about their opinions on the music, and you also have old reviews from music magazines, stuff like that. What this guy has done is the same thing with the same artists, but this is facts about the artists, how they became and where they ended, really. And also, which is kind of a shame, he writes about all the different pressings of the records, which takes up about half of the books. And in my opinion, that's a little bit, you know, it's getting old as soon as the book's out. But the rest of it is awesome. So when I've read about the Fripp record, I read about the opinions in this and the facts in this.
You get big muscles in your arms, I should think.
Yeah, it's like 12 kilo of books.
The guy who wrote the second book, he used to, both Mark and I worked for organizations that used to get money from this organization in London. And he was like a bureaucrat that used to come around to see people and visit people. He was like an officer of the, and it was only right towards the end of his time, he eventually retired, I think, when he was quite young, and to write these books. And these suddenly revealed he was a complete record. Do you remember him, Mark? You must remember.
What's his name?
Vernon Johnson.
No,
He was part of the London Borough Grants Unit. He used to fund everybody. And he suddenly disappeared and then reappeared as this author.
Wow.
And he was a very, very quiet guy, very sweet, but very quiet guy. And he used to write out checks for all these arts organizations. And he suddenly reappeared as an author.
I have to say, Galactic Ramble is a fantastic read. And I did the same, Jonas. I just took it in alphabetical order.
Okay.
And I made notes because I was going to give the book back to John. I had it for about a year.
You had it for over a year.
Yes. But the new version is updated, and it's brilliant having the original reviews, and then they have they have a whole panel of you know, like music connoisseurs who give their opinion. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and some of it feels like you got the old reviews, and then if there is something that someone doesn't like, there's two new reviews, so they get a second opinion of someone who thinks it's kind of okay, so you get two opinions on the record. Yeah, it's great. Really, really good work. Should I do my film before? Just a quick one. This is Sigur Rós Heima, it's called. So Sigur Rós, the Icelandic band.
Oh yeah.
They did a world tour and they almost got fed up on touring. This is back in 2005 maybe, or something like that. So they decided to go home and do like small concerts outdoor and in small venues out on the countryside in Iceland. So Heima, the title, means home in Icelandic. This is the absolutely most beautiful documentary music film I've ever seen in my life. The photography is insane.
It's gorgeous.
Fantastic. And it's very cheap to get on DVD. And I recommend everyone to do it. You don't really need to like Sigur Rós music to appreciate the film.
Nice.
Cool. My book is a book called Bluetopia, which was written by Graham Locke, came out 15, 20 years ago now. And I reread it, hadn't read it for a long time. It's basically about Anthony Braxton, Duke Ellington, and Sun Ra, looking at the relationship between them and Afrofuturism and all that kind of stuff. Really good book, actually. And I enjoyed it much more the second time, actually, than the first time. Just interesting, looking at different themes, looking at the kind of the relationship between tradition and experimentation, and really good, actually, enjoyable book, actually, definitely recommended. And it kind of looks at, explores all three of them in a very interesting way. And my film is Soul, actually, which is on Disney Plus, which is great, actually.
Fantastic.
The name describes it, really.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful film, actually.
Yeah, it is brilliant.
And just really very warm feeling about film.
Yeah, very warm. I think the brilliance with Pixar is that they make movies for just as much for the adults as the children. And with Soul, I almost felt a little bit like it was more for me than my daughter. So they are almost like tipping a little bit over to the more adult audience. But yeah, it was a wonderful film.
Brilliantly put together, I think.
A great film to watch over Christmas.
Yeah.
Or any time, but it was particularly nice to see.
Yeah.
Felt really good. Brilliant. Well, I think we should probably draw the video to a close, because I feel we've made a long video, but it's been amazing to have Jonas as our special guest.
Awesome. Really cool.
So we'll say goodbye.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, thank you everyone for your comments. And yeah.